Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live stream, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Big shout out to my cousin Gino. Hope you're having a great night, buddy. Guys, holy crap, what a week that we've had. I have been reeling for like every single day something new happens. So if you're new or if you're not new, first off, if you've been having your head stuck in the sand for the last week, Trump came out a week ago and just said, we have weapons that nobody understands. And everybody was kind of like, okay, that's kind of weird that he says that in the middle of tariff negotiations. And then right after that, a couple days later, the White House Science and Technology Advisor, who, if you pay attention to the UFO community in past administrations, has been supposedly the gatekeeper of some of this technology, just in a random speech says that we have made the choice to suppress or to hold back technology, and that we have the technology now to manipulate space and time. What? There's no context that makes sense other than what it says, literally. So as you might expect, this has caused a giant snowball effect where I've been getting more requests than ever. Like, we've hit this peak in terms of the investigation, the science, everything. So yesterday, I was asked on Betty Johnson's show. I was asked to talk to Clayton Morris. I had great conversations with both of them. We're going to look at some clips tonight. And if you haven't checked those out, please do. Some other stuff as well, like, so not just Benny and Clayton Morris, but we had Tim Pool was talking about me. Tim Pool was also talking about faster than light communication. And Tim Pool was saying that he has his own sources that say we are working on faster than light communication, faster than light transmission of information that can be decoded. And not to one up Tim Pool, but we already have that. That's trivial compared to teleporting in an airplane. But okay, point being, somebody else is saying the same stuff with independent sources. Alex Jones also. Alex Jones actually has a source that says basically everything that I've been saying. And we're going to play that later today as well. And that's not even enough. Also, somehow, all of this overshadowed the fact that I had a conversation with Harvard physicist Avi Loeb this week on an X space. And it was confrontational. I wouldn't say it was hostile, but it was confrontational. So what a week, guys. Tonight, the plan is to review the basis for 0-point energy. We have a lot of new viewers, and in general, repetition helps get everything in. So tonight, we're going to talk and we're going to look at 0-point energy, why it exists, why it's the secret to the UFO phenomenon. And I'm not even going to do most of the explaining myself. tonight I'm going to let the videos of the Black Project engineers explain it to you from decades ago. The exact same thing that I've been saying the last couple nights. Because here's the thing. I am not somebody that has figured out all of physics. I'm just an investigator. And I looked at the evidence and found physics that's real, that's out there. So you can take it, you can believe it, or you can see it for yourself or not. It's up to you. All I can do is lead the horse to water, but I can't make him drink. Okay, so the reason why people are talking to me is because for the last year and a half, I have been saying that the United States government has warp drive and wormhole technology, and they've cracked fusion, and they have free energy technology. And so now we're getting slow drip admission of these technologies, and people are going, how did that guy, Ashton Forbes, know that when nobody else on Earth was saying it? Like, nobody was saying that. Not even the people in the UFO community were saying that, and they need that to be real for aliens to get here. So, what I'm going to say here as well, I'm just going to say it at the beginning. I was going to say it at the end. But I have realized there are several avenues to actually winning a Nobel Prize now on some of this stuff. Because of the science and the physics. Like, proving that negative energy is real is going to be an easy way for somebody out there to get a Nobel Prize. We've seen it. We know it's real. Bada bing, bada boom. Crap, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, this is it. The other thing that I realized that I guess there's not a lot of scientific papers on, I just assumed that there was. Apparently, I've been maybe on the cutting edge of this, is that people haven't been connecting warp drives and wormholes together. Guys, warp drives and wormhole science and technology is exactly the same. The only difference is how much energy you're pulling out of the 0-point energy. If you hit so much, you pull so much out, you create a singularity, you create a wormhole. But you can, tune that, modulate that so that you don't necessarily travel faster than the speed of light. So you have like a gas pedal that you can do. And if you slow down, you're just doing warp drive. If you speed up, then you're creating a wormhole. So I only found out today that that's not just like public knowledge. That's not just like publicly known. And I can take it even a step further. I can say not only are warp drives and wormholes the same thing, but also EM drive, this, the thing that Charles Bueller has been pushing, the former NASA electrostatics expert, the impossible drive, that's also the same thing. That's just an even more scaled down version. So you start with little EM drive over here. That's like the basis for realizing there's an ether, that the 0-point energy exists. And then you move up to warp drive, which is now you can move at basically any speed you want. And then if you achieve faster than light travel relativistically, then that's a warp drive or a wormhole. Those are all the same physics. So you might be able to win just an easy Nobel Prize with that, actually. I don't know. Turns out there's going to be like probably several easy-ass Nobel Prizes here. Okay. One more thing. Somebody asked a really good question. I want to address two elephants in the room before we get onto this tonight, and we're going to get to stuff really quickly tonight. One is the Alex Jones situation. Something is not right with the Alex Jones situation. I have a feeling. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's weird bad blood or someone saying something to him, but he hasn't invited me on at all, and he's been saying the exact same stuff I'm saying. And it's not like Alex Jones is like, this is too far out there for Alex Jones. And when Alex Jones plays the videos, he's been playing the MH370 videos, but he never says my name, and he never says anything about MH370. I just think that's really, really weird, especially because I've interviewed with him before. I interviewed with him back December of 2023. So I'm kind of, I don't know what's up with it, but I just get a weird vibe about whatever's going on with that. Especially because, as you're going to see in this clip later, he's saying the exact same stuff I'm saying. I don't quite get it. Now, the other thing, too, is that at some point, I'm going to be on Joe Rogan. At some point, I'm going to be on Joe Rogan. The reason why I know that for sure is because it's just going to get too awkward for Joe to keep ignoring it. I just know because this is going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was also just told directly by Kurt Metzger that Kurt Metzger is like literally telling Joe Rogan that the videos are real, trying to tell him that the videos are real. So Kurt Metzger is actually not like against us or anything like that. I know because he direct messaged me and told me. So eventually it's going to end up happening, and there will probably be kind of awkward. So what people were asking me, funny enough, I saw this in some of my replies. They were saying, if Joe Rogan invited you on now, would you reject it because he turned you down before? And while that would be really funny, no, I'm not that petty. No, I would not turn down Joe Rogan if we would go on it. I think we would have to clear the air on it. It's not like I'm going to force Joe Rogan to believe the videos are real, but you know, we got to clear the air on like, bro, like, why are you canceling interviews on people? It's pretty sus. Maybe he has a good explanation. I don't know. Okay. So, and and Jimmy Dory also invited me on, so I'm probably going to be on his show as well. So I don't know. Basically, what I'm getting at is this. You can tell like this thing has hit a peak, right? Where it can't go away. It's just gotten way too big. It's gotten a life of its own. And I'm actually a little bit afraid about it. I expected that this would take way longer. Truthfully to you guys, and I've said this, you go back to the old live streams, could take years. I mean, it could be fast, but it could also take a long time. And this is happening really quick. Like, we got people that are not related to UFO stuff, waking up, wanting to talk about this stuff. You know, you're not seeing people coming out of the woodwork to try to debunk either, which I think is a big, big indicator that there's truth to this. If what I was telling you guys from a physics perspective was incorrect, do you know how many physicists and debunker people would be making videos dunking on me like they do Terrence Howard? There would be endless, but you see none of it. I literally explained why the physics of the videos is accurate from a release of ultraviolet photons perspective, and not one physicist would come into the replies and say anything. So this is happening quickly, and what's scaring me about it is that this technology is really dangerous, guys. I know we joke, I know we have fun, and I know we are on the side of disclosure, but the technology is actually literally very, very dangerous. And so for the most part, I don't know what to say. We're in a tough spot. I just want to let you guys know my feelings on this in general. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Let's just get into it, guys. I don't know. I'm being weird. Okay. Actually, there's one more thing. There was some news today that there's going to be a UFO hearing, everybody. New UFO hearing. And thank you, Shanjo and Fork M. Dono, for those pilled donations, guys. Thank you very much for those cookies. I appreciate you in the pilled chat. Let me pull this up. Okay. While I'm doing that, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. I need a producer. Okay, there we go. I caught the live one. Happy Easter. What happened to the people on board? Everybody asked what happened to the people on board. We can't really know what happened to the people on board MH370, but they're probably all dead because nobody has come out, you know? So if somebody was alive, don't you think in 11 years they probably would have said, hey, like, I was on that plane? So I think that probably what happened was that the fire took out the people on board the plane. Thanks for asking, though. BGA, thank you very much. Your pod lines up with my lunch break. I appreciate what you do. Keep pushing free energy. Yes, and I think that Trump might be actually trying to disclose this technology. Okay, here we go. I got the thing ready to go. And even though I think he might be trying to disclose this technology, I do think that this whole thing that we're looking at here is a big joke. This UAP investigation that we got going on. I like Anna Polina Luna. I think she's a nice woman. I think she's got a good heart. But whatever this is, if you guys are holding out hope for this, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you nothing's gonna come from this. April 29th, skiff briefings with UAP experts. What the hell does that mean? Like, this is so vague. Does that mean they're pulling people off the street? Does that mean Hal Puthoff? I'll tell you what. The only way I'm interested in this is if one of the people in part of this is Hal Puthoff or Eric Davis. In fact, we're going to watch a lot of Hal Puthoff today, guys. So if it turns out Hal Puthoff is somehow part of this, pay very close attention. And if he's not, and it's like Lou Elizondo and Tim Gallaudet and these other guys, then no thank you. We're going to pass on that. And then what is roundtable with experts, officials, and members of Congress? Like, is this open to the public? Is this open to the public? Like, yeah, we are real. Disclosure is already happening right now. You're going to get more disclosure out of this video. In fact, tonight, if you're watching this video right now, you're going to get more secret information out of this video right now than you're going to get out of that skiff right there that's going to happen. So I don't know what this is even supposed to be. But at least it's happening pretty soon. I mean, it's in the next few weeks. So we're going to find out one way or another. 0 point energy, everybody. That's what you're here for tonight. Okay, how is it possible that we can create a warp drive? How is it possible we can create a wormhole? How is it possible that free energy is real? How are all these things actually possible? How is it possible for aliens to visit us on Earth from, I don't know, Alpha Centauri, from Andromeda Galaxy? The answer to all of these questions is 0 point energy. There is an energy source that we have blinded ourselves to that's indisputably real. Indisputably real. And we have just collectively said, yeah, it's real, but let's just ignore it. Can you believe that? So when I started digging into the science to try to figure out how could it be real that we could warp drive something or we could wormhole something, this was before I knew anything, I found out that there really is this science out there that actually explains it, and it's been talked about, it's been written about, and we just have collectively decided, nah, it's no big deal. That's the absolute truth about it. So when I saw that, I just went, what? There's a whole area of physics that, like quantum mechanics, 0 point energy, that explains states below the ground state, below zero? Yep. All out there. People have been talking about it for decades. Decades and decades and decades. This is why I say, guys, I'm not somebody who's figured out all of physics. Well, at the same time, I also have. But it's not me that figured it out. I just did investigative work. I looked at all the evidence, the history of the physics, compared it with what I know from these videos that I'm staring at of a plane disappearing out of the sky. And boom, turns out the answer is right there staring at us. You couldn't make this up. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with the mainstream academia. The answer is the Casimir effect. You may say, Ashton, what's the Casimir effect? Well, the Casimir effect proves that 0 point energy exists. Indisputably, no question. And it's not a new experiment. It's been around since 1948. 1948, when Hendrik Casimir put two metal plates together and realized, whoa, those plates just came together all on their own. But wait, I was told that space is an empty vacuum. If space is an empty vacuum, how can the plates just magically come together? That's magic. The Casimir effect shows that space isn't actually empty. Proves it, no question, no doubt. If space was empty, those plates are not coming together. But they did. So that means we were missing something big. And we have had over 75 years to try to understand that. 75 years to try to understand the Casimir effect. And let's figure out where our current best top science influencers are on understanding the Casimir effect.
Casimir force, where you actually put two metal plates in otherwise empty space. They should simply sit there.
There is a point within which a whole other force kicks in.
That's right. And it's not the gravitational force. Rather, it's a force that comes from the Casimir field, which is basically...
That got a Nobel Prize, the Casimir?
I already have to stop them there. The clip is only 15 seconds in, and they've already said 3 things that are just completely wrong. Just completely wrong. The Casimir effect isn't a magical, separate new force. There's not something where all of a sudden a new force is created that like didn't exist before. There's no fundamental force being created from the Casimir effect. And it's also not like a magical field. It's not a Casimir field either. What's happening is it's really actually super simple, which is why I don't understand why these guys can't why they're so hilariously off in this clip about it. If I have 2 plates, you're creating a boundary condition, which means anything that's too fat, if this is a doorway and I'm too fat and I can't fit through the doorway, then I can't get in there. That's all this is. And what that means is there's certain wavelengths that can't fit between the plates. And that causes them to come together. Why? Because there's wavelengths everywhere. The wavelengths are the 0-point energy everywhere. How do these guys not get this? I'm gonna play it from the beginning on that part because it's just, I'm sitting here looking at this going, and for the people wondering, some of you guys might be wondering, like, Ashton, you cherry picked this clip. You went through, dug through some clips, and you tried to find the one that makes them look the worst. No, I was on YouTube and this got promoted to me. Because I look for stuff like physics and Casimir effect on YouTube. I saw this clip and I'm looking at it. I'm going, we are so cooked. These are our science communicators. They don't know anything about anything. They have zero understanding of the Casimir effect. It's not some new phenomenon. Here we go again.
Well, the Casimir force, where you actually put two metal plates in otherwise empty space, they should simply sit there.
There is a point within which a whole other force kicks in.
That's right. And it's not the gravitational force. Rather, it's a...
But it is like the gravitational force also. Like literally everything they say is wrong. It's a you could argue it's a repulsive gravitational force.
Force that comes from the Casimir field, which is basically...
That got a Nobel Prize? The Casimir?
Well, 1948 is when it was discovered.
Okay.
It got one in my book.
But it should have.
You just gave it one.
I just gave it one.
Yeah, it definitely deserved one.
That's insane.
But it's an imbalance between the fluctuations of uncertainty within the plates and the fluctuations of uncertainty outside of the plates.
Oh.
And it's that imbalance.
Creates a force.
I'm sorry.
Together.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay.
God damn. God damn. Do you know how hard it is they're making it for me to not get canceled right now? I am trying my hardest right now, chat, to not get canceled. The only reason why I wasn't 100% sure that was some kind of skit was because they actually got just enough right at the end for me to think, okay, I think they do understand like the basis, because then they start talking about, you know, the pressure differential. But like everything before that, they got nothing wrong. That is just the most insane clip ever. God damn. I'll give it a Nobel Prize. That's what people watch? Man. Chat, I don't know. Maybe you guys are getting PhD level quantum mechanics lessons here on YouTube. I mean, my expectations could not get any lower after that. So, guys, you can either choose to believe that slop, which was, I don't even know what to make of it. It's like a mixture of like Real Housewives and Bill Nye the Science Guy is what that felt like to me. I would rather gouge my eyes out than play that clip one more time. That's what it felt like to me. And it turns out, it looks like Neil deGrasse Tyson's going to be on Joe Rogan. So if Neil deGrasse Tyson goes on Joe Rogan and says anything about quantum mechanics, the Casimir effect, warp drives, or wormholes, I'm going to just absolutely destroy that man. We're going to have if he does, if that pops over the weekend or whatever, get ready. we're going to have a live stream just dissecting every little bit because I have zero confidence that NGT can explain a warp drive to Joe Rogan or negative energy to Joe Rogan. Zero. Okay, let's get to it. Let's look at some real scientists and physicists that are out there. Let's start with Hal Puthoff right off the bat. Okay. What year was that video? I don't know. It's relatively recently. I think it's a couple years ago. Definitely not more than like 3 or 4, I don't think. So you can either choose that or you can choose, here's Hal Puthoff. Oh, wait, which one? Puthoff. Explaining 0 point energy. So if you want to understand 0 point energy, here you go.
So-called empty space isn't really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something. And this energy is basically electromagnetic in nature, and the energy density is quite high. In fact, it's so high that when it was first discovered mathematically, it was thought to be some kind of artifact of the mathematics. But then as time went on, there were even Nobel Prize-winning experiments that showed that this energy in so-called empty space was really there. We don't usually notice it because it's so homogeneously distributed. It'd sort of be like sitting in a bathtub with at exactly your body temperature. You might not notice the water. But under certain circumstances, it can be disturbed or perturbed, and then it has effects. As I mentioned, some effects on atomic emission, for example.
So, because Hal talks so monotone, it basically puts me to sleep. Let me point out what he's saying. The 0 point energy is there all the time. You may say, well, why don't we see it? Why don't we recognize that it's there? The reason why we don't recognize that it's there is because it's like being in the bathtub. It's like being in the bathtub and the water temperature begins to equalize with your body temperature. And it goes from feeling hot to feeling cold, even though the water's not actually cold because you're equalized with it. What Hal is saying there is that the ground state is not really the bottom. Hal is saying that what we think of as 0 is not really 0. He's saying there is some negative amount of energy out there trapped in this 0 point energy.
For example, is what eventually ended up in a Nobel Prize for Willis Lamb of Yale University, and it's called the Lamb shift. And this is a recognition that, in fact, this energy disturbs atoms. So atoms aren't sitting in a void, they're sitting in the sea of energy. So once...
So the Lamb shift, and Lamb won the Nobel Prize for that, shows that these atoms, these are not just sitting in an empty void. They're sitting in a sea of energy. And this is why Hal Puthoff's first paper, The Ground State of the Hydrogen Atom, 1987, first paper about 0 point energy. That's why that was his first paper, because he realizes the hydrogen atom is sitting in this sea of energy. If it's sitting in an empty void, then it needs to be a closed system. Just the hydrogen atom. That's all there is. But if it's sitting in a sea of energy, it can absorb energy from that sea of energy. You see where I'm going with this? If there's a sea of energy that's out there, that's another source of energy that we can tap into. The same way that we tap into the sun or to wind, you can tap into this 0 point energy. Even if it's a tiny amount, it does not matter. It can be tapped into.
Quantum theorists realized that energy was there. The next question was, well, is there any way to tap it? And it was thought originally that probably not. It might be like trying to tap the heat energy around us. And you can quickly prove for thermodynamic reasons that it'll take more energy to tap it than you'd get out of it, so you don't come out ahead. But back in about 1984, a researcher at Hughes Laboratory by the name of Robert Forward showed that there was a particular effect called the Casimir effect, which demonstrated that, in fact, this energy could be tapped.
So there you go. What a difference. So you have Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think that was what, Brian Greene or whatever, and those guys, they don't even know what the heck the Casimir effect is. They think it's some magical new force, and it's got fields and what have you. And here's Hal Puthoff, instead, taking a completely different approach and saying, It turns out the Casimir effect shows we can extract energy from the vacuum. So this is one of the biggest things you need to understand. The reason why I play this clip so often. You are going to hear academics say, potentially even Neil deGrasse Tyson on Joe Rogan say, yes, the 0 point energy exists, but there's no way to tap it. That is a 100% lie. Robert Forward, his 1984 scientific paper shows that this force coming together can be converted into a motive, useful force that we can use for energy. Then what Hal says, because then if you say that to people, like literally these people are NPCs, like I can tell you exactly how the script will play out. And you'll come back to me and you'll go, Ashton, how did you know that these people are NPCs? The first thing they'll say is that you cannot extract the energy. You will say yes. Hal Puthoff says that Robert Forward showed in this 1984 paper that you can extract the energy. And then they'll come back after you've proven that they're lying, and they'll say, well, you can't perpetually extract it because then you have to pull the plates back apart. Yes, you would have to pull the plates back apart if you want to do it again. That's not the argument we're making. First thing we're starting with is, yes, there's energy there, and yes, you can extract it. With respect to perpetual extraction, we need a different method. We're not going to be able to just use two plates next to each other to perpetually extract energy. That won't work. We need a different method than that. Okay? Now, let's listen to another engineer. Let's listen to Tom Bearden explaining basically the same thing. Which clip did I want from Bearden? Guys, I have so many clips that I've got to like write them down.
The term vacuum has been used in several totally different senses. Some engineers use it to mean you just pump out all the air, and that's called a vacuum, and that's vacuum technology. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about empty space-time. We know today, for example, the Lamb shift in quantum mechanics showed that this exchange of energy between the vacuum and the charged particles is in fact real and generates real effects. And you can measure it. And he was given a Nobel Prize, Lamb was, for doing that kind of measurement and showing it in the physics literature. So we know it's real. Experimentally, it's detected. The Casimir shift, for example, shows clearly that it's there, and it does generate energetic effects in your actual materials. It turns out that in the modern view, the modern quantum mechanical view, if you apply that knowledge that's been gained there, what you find is that the vacuum is fiercely active. It's a fierce energy flux and going in all directions at all times. The energy density of that, as estimated by various physicists, is extremely high. The energy that's there is extremely dense and extremely fierce. This drives everything that we call physical reality, from the quantum level right on up to the observed level in the observed world that we live in. Everything is energetically driven by the vacuum.
How old is that video? That video's got to be the 90s, right? The 90s, that video, just from based on the production quality. He said all the exact same things Hal Puthoff was saying in that other video, right? Casimir effect, Lamb shift. That the energy, it's also important to point out, the energy density he's saying is very high. So when NGT or your favorite academic comes and says, no, there's no energy there to be tapped into in your 0 point energy, you just point out, no. Tom Bearden, Richard Feynman, John Archibald Wheeler, you heard of them? Manhattan Project, wormholes, black holes, they kind of coined those phrases. They say the energy is this huge number, 10 to the 108. 100 orders of magnitude, 100 zeros. That's a lot of energy. A lot of energy. So, because literally this is a matter of propaganda, like literally we're being brainwashed, I'm going to repeat it again. What they're going to tell you is, A, there's no energy to be tapped. You just heard that's bullshit. There's a huge amount of energy to be tapped. We can tap it. And then after you tell them that, they're going to say, sure, okay, we can tap the 0 point energy, but you can't repeatedly tap it. Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, let's listen to me explaining this. Let's see how I do relative to those guys. We'll judge me explaining it, guys. Here you go. Wait, where is it? Shit. There it is. Okay. Wait, why doesn't it? God. There we go. Okay, sir, distance is an illusion. And he says, exactly. What we think of as distance is an illusion. And how do you unify all of these concepts? You say, oh, there's an extra dimension of energy all around us all the time. In fact, this extra dimension of energy gives space-time its form. What we see all over around us isn't nothingness. We are in a medium of energy. We just don't see it because it's quantum. It's invisible. Just like magnetism. Magnetism exists. We don't see it, but we can see the effects of it. That is also true of the zero-point energy. And you're seeing Dr. Greer here speak. I've actually watched a lot of the interviews he's done with engineers, including people like Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, for example, that are government black project physicists and engineers. And they explain this concept clearly. If there is this energy all around us, and we're in this medium of energy, then the thing that physics has gotten wrong, the classical physics and academia has gotten wrong, is they think that this zero-point energy is insignificant. They think there's nothing there that you can tap into. That when you get to zero, that's it. But the Casimir effect and various other experiments about zero-point energy show it's not nothing. In fact, it might be a significant amount of energy. So what we think of as zero is not the bottom. And if that's the case, that means not only can you make an explosion where you add energy to a region, you can remove energy from a region. So I brought an analogy for you here. Imagine this sponge is a region of space-time, a cube of space-time. If I were to look at this, I would go, well, it just looks normal. I don't see anything in this sponge. It's empty, right? It's just a sponge. I don't see anything dripping off of it. But what happens if I squeeze that region of space-time? Now the water drips out. So what would happen if I were to squeeze a region of space-time down? All the molecules would come together. They would get closer together to one another. Potentially it would create fog, condensation. Well, it turns out those MH370 videos, that's exactly what we see, pulling the orbs forward. So this idea, bada bing, bada boom. So how did I do? I'd say I did a pretty dang good job if you ask me, chat. I think I do a pretty good job. We're sitting in a sea of energy, and we can manipulate the sea of energy by changing the density of energy in any region we choose. We can draw the boundaries wherever we want to draw the boundaries. Make draw a bubble around yourself. Think of it as like a bubble. It doesn't have to be a bubble. It can be a box. It can be an octagon. That's what we're dealing with here is you make a bubble, and then you are changing the energy density inside that bubble, inside that region. And that's what they're doing to the MH370. They're making a bubble around MH370, and they are separating it from our perceived reality. And then it's got to show up somewhere else, presumably. So the idea here is that if space-time is not empty and we can change the refractive index, we can change the speed of light through the medium, through space-time, that lets us break the Einstein's equations. And that Einstein guy, he was pretty smart. Like Sal said, these videos are going to actually prove Einstein right. This video specifically is going to prove Einstein right. This is going to prove that not only is there curvature in space-time, but we can create curvature in space-time. And that's what it looks like when you do it. Something teleporting out of the sky. Pretty incredible. Let me do a few more donos because I saw some huge donos pop in. I want to make sure I hit those. And then we're going to hit the second half of our clips that we've got. I've got a special one that I haven't shown you guys yet that we're going to watch right after this by Leonard Susskind. Leonard Susskind and Juan Maldacena are the two PhD physicists that are two of the top wormhole physicists in the world. And they are the kind of promoters of ER equals EPR, which means an Einstein-Rosen bridge is equivalent to quantum entanglement. It's a beautiful theory, and it's 100% real, in my opinion. Okay, let's hit these donos. Okay, NGN Natenko. Ashton, do you think ZPE will help reveal medbeds? Yes, I think that there absolutely is a healing capability because you can reverse localized time in a bubble. So you can reverse entropy. So you can reverse cancers. You can maybe even heal limbs potentially, but we don't know for sure though. Thank you, Max Imovich. I appreciate your donation. Thank you very much, good sir. Devos with a huge dono. Pulitzer Prize isn't not big enough for this. They need to invent a new award. Just call it the MH370 Award, or call it the 4 Orbs Award, or call it the ZPE Disclosure Award. Devos, thank you very much for that huge dono. And then NMAX. Do inventors and militias need to combine? I don't know what that means. Are you saying that I'm not sure what that means, but yes, I think, do you mean, do we need to come together and do we need to figure this out for ourselves? Yes. What I'll say is this, is that we're not going to just make ourselves some magical orbs like the U.S. government has. They have billions of dollars of resources, and they've been doing this for 50 to 100 years. We're not going to catch up that way. The best we can hope for is produce something on a smaller scale that can prove that science, prove that physics is real. So that's probably what we should be aiming for, and then trying to aim for them to disclose it. One of the things I said earlier today, guys, was that I'm going to get the United States government to admit what they did to MH370. And people go, there's no way they'll ever admit it. Never say never, chat. Never say never. They will admit it when everybody knows it to be true. When everybody knows it to be true, that's when they'll admit it, and not before. We'll see. Traversable bunghole. Thank you very much. Editor here. Looking forward to the call tomorrow. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we got a call tomorrow with some of the people that were, applying for the editor thing. Looking forward to talking to you guys, seeing how you can help out. And thank you very much for all you guys who applied to the position. Appreciate it. Fly Ether. There's my boy. You guys have not following him. Check out his clips. He makes the best clips, and they've been getting better and better. It is weird that he hasn't had Greer on. Bendel, I understand, honestly. Like, I like Malcolm Bendel, but he's a eclectic personality, so I can see why it might be a little weird for a podcast. What I'll say about this, guys, if they air the Malcolm Bendel episode, commenters are gonna tear him to pieces. Like, literally tear him to pieces. More than they even did Terrence Howard. Like, way more. So there's a reason why Joe didn't air the episode. So that's all I'm really going to say. And I don't want to badmouth people. War Ranch LLC, thank you very much for that donation. We got tapped at 0 point like I tapped my life repeatedly. Yeah, you guys are, Friday night. We are keeping it rated R tonight, apparently. Necro Google, thank you for that huge donation. It would be insane to see a gravitic weapon 0 point magnetically force open wormholes to instantly return fire ICBMs back at the launch site. The thing about it would be we wouldn't even be able to see it. We're not even going to see it with our eyes. Like, the next generation war is like, it's going to be hard for people to comprehend because it's basically going to be over before it started. The moment you've got these orbs flying at each other, it's basically like instant annihilation. You probably can't even see the orbs. The other thing I want to point out as well is that I chatted with Dave Rossi a little bit about this last night. I'm now very, very confident that the orbs are just straight up invisible, that they can tune the frequency of the orb to change whether or not it's on the visible spectrum or if it's in the infrared spectrum. But like they pointed out in the podcast we watched several months ago, it can't be both at the same time. You can either be invisible in the infrared spectrum or visible, but not both at the same time. So it's not perfect. It's not like perfect cloaking, but pretty damn good. Okay, thank you for those donos. Let's do some more. Let's do some more clips. Okay, Leonard Susskind, guys. Here you go. Here's the man himself. And actually, I'm going to play this one first, even though it's kind of badmouths him a little bit.
Understanding, if you remove.
So this clip I'm about to show here really shows how disconnected these academics are from just straight up reality, right? This guy's about to ask Leonard Susskind how it's possible that 0 point energy can exist if you're telling me that space is an empty vacuum. And then after he fails to explain that, somebody else follows up like, this doesn't make any sense. How can there be energy? How can there be electromagnetic fields if you're telling me that space is an empty vacuum? Here you go.
Tough time understanding. If you remove matter and you remove radiation, what causes the electric fields? Like, what's the perturbation and what?
I can't answer what causes it. I can tell you that the uncertainty principle requires it to be there.
But we're making the assumption there is no electric field, there is no mass. I thought you...
Did I say there's no electric field?
So de Sitter space has only the dark energy. Or
right.
Okay.
It has no real photons. It has only the 0-point energy.
Okay, you can have an electric field without real photons.
It just doesn't have any charges.
It's there anyway. The field fluctuates anyway. It doesn't need charges.
Right.
So he just straight up says, I don't even need to explain it. I don't even need to tell you how it's there. The 0-point energy is there. And they're like, how is that possible? You're telling me there's nothing there. I can't explain it, but quantum mechanics says it's real. And then at the end, he's like, it's virtual photons, as if somehow that answers the question. This is how, like, guys, when I say that, I actually start to wonder, like, how we're so stupid. And when I say that, guys, I'm not, like, trying to say that, like, you guys are stupid and I'm not. I'm stupid, too. I was one of these people, like, how did we just ignore that, like, none of this made any goddamn sense at all? Like, this makes no sense whatsoever. And that's just normal people telling a PhD physicist, what you're telling me makes no goddamn sense at all. And his response is, I can't explain it, but it's real because of quantum mechanics. No wonder we can't figure out warp drives and wormholes. These are our experts. These are our academic experts. They get the most basic questions you could possibly get. They can't even answer. Where's the 0-point energy coming from? The oscillations. In what? The oscillations in what? Literally, you're telling me space is an empty vacuum, but you're telling me there's these magical oscillations that are happening. In what? Obvious. The crazy part is the answer is so obvious that you don't need a PhD. The answer is the oscillations in the ether. The oscillations in the 0-point energy field. Kaluza-Klein figured this out in 1926. It's like we're just like, we can't admit that it's obviously the ether, the thing that, like, every single physicist that came up with all of modern theories said exists. We can't admit that because we've gone so far away from it now where we just can't admit that we were wrong. So instead of just admitting we're wrong, Leonard Suskind's like, we're just not going to explain it. We're just not going to explain it. What the hell? What the hell? So here's another clip. This one's a little bit longer. I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing. But the point of this clip is to show you that Leonard Susskind is, no question, no doubt, telling us that the ether is there. He's explaining it in the exact same way, even in more detail, than what Hal Puthoff explained it, than how Tom Bearden explained it. And this is him explaining it decades after Tom Bearden, decades after Hal Puthoff. So I wanted to play that in context for you to show you the disconnect in these people. He can perfectly explain the 0-point energy. He can perfectly explain the math. But when it comes to why is it there, you get nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here we go.
Something about this vacuum energy that I'm pretty confused about what its source is or what it is. I mean, you would think that if you didn't have any matter or radiation, you'd get nothing. I mean, naively.
Right. So for that, we have to understand why quantum mechanics gives energy to the ground state of systems. The vacuum is the ground state of, let's say, quantum field theory. Ground state means the state of lowest energy. Now.
Okay, we're going to take this piece by piece. The ground state is the state of lowest energy. right? So right off the bat, we need to understand something vitally important. When we say empty vacuum, we're not saying zero. That's huge. We count it mathematically as zero, but it's not. That's what he's saying right there. If the vacuum's not empty, the ground state is just the equilibrium state where we've centered in on. Just because we're centered in on this equilibrium state doesn't make it zero. Equilibrium state is not necessarily zero. So there's something below that. And if that's the case, then anything below the equilibrium is negative. Anything above the equilibrium is positive, right? So above equilibrium, positive, below equilibrium, negative. Boom, we just solved what negative energy is. We just solved what negative energy is. It turned out negative energy wasn't some magical substance. Negative energy was just going below the current equilibrium. That's it. Boom.
In the vacuum, it's possible to have oscillations of electric and magnetic fields and so forth. The oscillations behave like ordinary oscillations. And ordinary oscillations have a ground state energy. The ground state energy is not zero. And the reason that it's not zero is because of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. We're going off track, but let's answer the question anyway. If we have a harmonic oscillator, what's the potential of a harmonic oscillator? The energy of it.
So the harmonic oscillator that he's showing there, harmonic oscillator is so easy to understand. Everybody's probably going, what the hell is a harmonic oscillator? It's a swing. Harmonic oscillator is just a swing. You can also imagine it like a spring. A spring or a swing. That's all you need to remember.
It is proportional to the momentum squared, that's the kinetic energy. I'm not going to put in numerical factors, plus the distance squared that you stretch the spring, so to speak.
Okay, so I'll save us some effort here. Basically, what he says in quantum mechanics, when you have your swing, when you have your pendulum, it never stops. They were able to show mathematically that it can never stop. It's impossible for it to stop because if it ever reached a stopping point, then one of those two variables that he put on the screen there in his equations would hit infinity. It's not possible. So there must be perpetual motion and vibration in the 0 point energy. So this is huge. So what he's saying is that when you do the math, it says that this 0 point energy that's out there, it's moving like this perpetually, never stops, all the time. So there actually is perpetual movement out there that we can tap into. Because imagine, if there's perpetual motion, that means that even if we tap into it, it's going to still be moving. And motion is energy. Motion is energy. So let's skip ahead a little bit on this, because then he explains it with the math there and shows that. And then we'll watch maybe the last 2 minutes.
Every field behaves like an oscillator. Every field has 0 point energy. And it's those 0 point energies which are one explanation of the vacuum energy. The real puzzle is why it's so small. It is.
Okay, so right there, he's admitted the 0 point energy is real. But then he does the thing, chat. He did the thing. He goes, why is it so small? Oh, brother, you just gave away all your biases there, Professor Susskind. If anybody says that the energy density is so small, what did we just hear from Tom Bearden? What did we just hear from Hal Puthoff? Enough energy to, in the size of a coffee cup, to vaporize all the Earth's oceans. Does that sound like a small amount of energy to you? No. Leonard Susskind is using the cosmic microwave background as his energy level. He thinks the energy level is tiny. But if you do the quantum mechanical calculations that Richard Feynman and John Archibald Wheeler did, then you get 10 to the 120. The weird part here to me is why Leonard Susskind doesn't bring this up. if you're being a honest professor teaching people, you shouldn't say that the energy level is small. You should say that there is a discrepancy in the energy level between quantum mechanics and macroscopic cosmology, general relativity, and that we need to be able to account for that. So he kind of poisons the well by not being honest about that. But anyway, let's let him keep going.
It's very small, numerically very small, but that is not for tonight. Let's just recognize that it exists. As the universe expands, it doesn't dilute. It's just a constant. And experimentally, it really is, or observationally, it really does seem to be there with a particular numerical constant, which happens to be extremely small, measured in natural units.
Why does he keep repeating that it's extremely small?
I have an idea. Why isn't that just the last scattering baseline energy?
I don't know what that means.
I just mean that there's always 3-degree.
No, it's not the 3-degree radiation. That's radiation. That energy decreases with time because the photons dilute. And furthermore, each photon decreases its energy. It's not the 3-degree. It's the oscillations that are there when you remove all the real photons. It's the virtual photons, or just the 0-point oscillation that is necessarily present.
So what is so big about what he said right there at the end is he's saying this is non-thermal energy. He admitted it right there. He actually answered the vacuum catastrophe right there, didn't he? He says, the guy's trying to say, when he says his weird 3D question that made no damn sense, scattering or whatever, he's saying, hey, how does this work? Like, is the energy spreading around in this area of space-time? And then Leonard Susskind says, no, you're thinking about it wrong. And remember, the vacuum is it's empty. We've removed all the thermal energy from this cube of space-time. We've removed that. So whatever this energy is, it cannot be thermal. It's not a thermal energy. It's not releasing heat. It's vibrational. It's a vibrational type of energy. This is huge. Why? This is what U.S. Navy engineer Salvatore Pais has been trying to tell us. This is what he's been saying. You guys go right now. You can take a look at his patents and his papers. Specifically, I think it's the I can't remember if it's the superconductor one or maybe the AIAA paper. But he basically says that the vibrational energy will overtake the thermal energy in a system. And when that happens, do we get superconductivity? Do we start to see macroscopic quantum effects begin to happen when the vibrational energy takes over from the thermal energy and exceeds it? I don't know the answer, but we're learning. So, okay, I wanted to point out that with Leonard Susskind so that you guys can see, you know, that A, this stuff is real, but also how mainstream academics respond to it. So that when you see these arguments, which are going to start popping up, like we've started to hit the point now where I had to do a stream like this because people are going to start coming out trying to debunk it, saying that the physics works this way or that way, and we're going to already be ahead of the game. We're going to already have the narratives to break their bullshit arguments down. Okay, let's go into tapping 0-point energy. Here we go. Second Hal Puthoff clip.
So once...
Okay, so we know the energy is there, chat. We know the energy exists. Now the second thing is, how do we tap into it? How do we get access to it?
Quantum theorists realized that energy was there. The next question was, well, is there any way to tap it? Back in about 1984, a researcher at Hughes Laboratory by the name of Robert Forward showed that there was a particular effect called the Casimir effect, which demonstrated that, in fact, this energy could be tapped, even though on a minuscule basis to start. And that is, if you put up two metal plates, it slightly shields the region in between, just like a car might shield radio signals coming in. And because this energy comes from all sides, if it's slightly shielded in the interior portion between a couple of plates. These plates would get pushed together, and that's the Casimir force, pulls plates together. And then when they hit, they create heat. So we've actually converted some of this vacuum energy into heat. Well, when you go to look at the numbers, you find out that there's enough energy in the coffee cup to say, evaporate all the world's oceans if you could get it all of it. So this raised the issue among theorists. Well, can we manipulate this energy? Could we tap it for spaceflight application, for example? And there are a couple ways to go. Could we get propulsion out of it? Could we use it as an energy source? And so these are the areas that modern theorists are looking at.
So it's like, why is there this massive disconnect? Who should I believe? Leonard Susskind, professor at Stanford, who says that the energy is really small. It's really small. Or should I believe Hal Puthoff, world's leading expert at zero-point energy, that says that the energy level is so high that a coffee cup of empty space will vaporize all the Earth's oceans? That is a pretty big, alarming difference. So I'm going with Hal Puthoff in this one, chat. Hal Puthoff, top gatekeeper of zero-point energy. Now, I got another engineer lined up for you guys as well, Paul Siz. If you don't know Paul Siz was aerospace engineer, 30 years experience, I think 12, 15 years in black projects. I actually like Paul Siz more than all the rest of them, to be honest with you. I just like the guy. I think that his demeanor is just very chill.
About zero-point energy, what that means is that when everything comes down to rest, there's still energy left. It's like sea level in the ocean.
It's like sea level in the ocean. It's such a great analogy, right? Sea level is zero, but it's not really the bottom, is it? That's why we call it an ocean of energy. The analogy of the ocean is perfect when it comes to zero-point energy.
And there is a constant flow of energy between matter and antimatter as it annihilates itself and recreates itself. It occurs in stars. All of these big star factories you see now with Hubble is a continual exchange of energy. And although the average is zero, that zero may be a pretty high level above nothing at all. And what Sakharov and some of the physicists said is that it's this level that creates the background for the universe to exist. You know, there are people who have been experimenting with zero-point energy or try to tap zero-point energy for years. Every once in a while someone will do it accidentally. They'll call it cold fusion, but I don't think it's cold fusion. I just think it's a zero-point energy tap. Except
that is so wild that not only does he explain cold fusion or zero-point energy, but he directly connects it to cold fusion. He goes, I think these people are figuring out cold fusion have just figured out how to tap into zero-point energy. Now, why is he saying that? Because he's realized that if there is this energy everywhere, then everything is tapping into it. All the stars up there, the stars, like our sun, it's tapping into the zero-point energy. And he's looking at it from that perspective. And he's realizing, oh, wow. So what that means when we're trying to recreate the star on Earth with fusion, really what we're doing is we're interacting with this field of energy around us. And if we interact with this field of energy, then we shouldn't be looking at it from a hot fusion perspective. There's other ways to accomplish it that don't require temperature. And if temperature is not a requirement, then why are we trying to do it that way at all? Bubble cavitation, yes, is a great way. Cavitation in general is it, because cavitation, if you're not familiar with cavitation, that's like a little punchy shrimp. What happens when you punch really fast is you create a collapsing vortex, just like what? Like the Casimir effect. The punchy shrimp is creating a collapse, and that's what the Casimir effect is doing as well. Next video, back to Hal Puthoff. Okay, we know there's this zero-point energy. We know we can interact with it. Now the question is, how. We can't use the plates. Those aren't going to work. Here's another Hal Puthoff clip. What's this one called? This one.
So, I mean, one of the things that has been a puzzle is, well, the electron is said to be a point part.
Hold on. Hal Puthoff, I can't think of anybody else that is a bigger authority on 0-point energy. Hal Puthoff is the #1 expert in the world on 0-point energy. As far as I can tell, nobody else is even close. Eric Davis is probably #2.
But the main thing, of course, was to try to figure out something to get the energy out. And of course, the Casimir effect shows that energy can be extracted from the 0-point energy fields.
Okay. I've gone on 100 podcasts, and I want to say on at least half of them, I've just said the same thing that Hal Puthoff said. Energy can be extracted from the 0-point energy field. Okay, so it's getting a little bit redundant, as you guys can tell, but you can see as well that the point here is that we can extract the energy, and then Hal Puthoff's follow-up right here is, okay, how do we extract it perpetually? How do we extract it perpetually? Run through them before we close out tonight.
It's only that in the case of the plates and the Casimir effect, that's great. You get you a puff of energy, but if you're pulling them apart to do it again, you've got to put in as much energy as you got out. So you got to find some other way.
Wait.
So we looked at some plasma potential aspects. Those are not.
Plasma. Oh, yes. Why would we use 2 plates? 2 plates isn't the method. Let's go straight to the source. Let's go straight to the atomic level, the atom. Let's take our atom and let's rip its electron off and make a plasma. Let's abuse the Casimir effect in a plasma. Why? Because the plasma can move freely in any shape we need it to move. Instead of having 2 plates that are fixed, let's figure out why the Casimir effect exists at all and abuse it in whatever medium we need to. It turns out plasma is the secret to everything. Plasma is the secret to the UFO phenomenon. Plasma is the secret to get negative energy to work as well. Seems to be the secret to a lot of this stuff. So what is possible with this technology? And if you want deeper dives, I don't even know how many live streams I have at this point. Probably well over 100. Pick the topic you want on my past live streams. What can you do with this technology? Well, obviously, you can teleport things. You can annihilate things because just teleport it into the sun and then it's gone. You can cloak things. These plasma balls can be invisible. In fact, I don't even know if you can see when you're teleporting something. It might just be gone when it gets teleported. Not sure. We also have the capability of unlimited energy with these plasma balls. Fusion, cold fusion, not hot fusion, can be achieved in the palm of our hand. We can heal, reverse aging, maybe end the aging process entirely with this technology. We can create directed energy weapons that can annihilate nukes the moment that they go off, to the point where we're going to look at a clip about this, that can either speed up or stop the nuclear decay process in a nuke. We can detonate nukes on top of people. The applications of this technology are practically endless. One of the 2 more things, we can make telescopes. We can make microscopes. You can use this technology to get down below the focal point, where right now we can't see things that are super small because it gets like, I forget the name for it in optics, but it gets below the level which any optical thing that we make can see. We can get around that. We can make metamaterials that have refractive indexes that can get beyond that. We can even make telescopes that can potentially see further than we can see with normal normal telescopes. We can actually even map out the entire planet. We can map the entire planet. I mean, not like on the surface. I mean, like the entire planet all the way through. So what that last one means, and I said this on Benny's podcast, every single submarine on the face of the earth, the United States knows exactly where it is. The United States knows where every single submarine is. All the aircraft carriers, everything on the water is just a sitting duck. The level of technology we're talking about here is just, it's on another echelon. Obsoletes all current technology. In fact, we're even calling it sixth generational warfare. Sixth generational warfare over space and time itself. When you manipulate space-time, if I make this side of space-time have more or less energy than this side, there's going to be a gradient, a pressure. Like one side will flow to the other, right? That's gravity. That's gravity. That's all gravity is. So gravity is not a fundamental force. The Casimir effect is not a fundamental force either. Now I'm going to play the Alex Jones clip, and then I want to comment on and give context to the technology, because if you guys are new to physics or what have you, there's another thing you really must know. You need to know that they use different terms for the same exact thing. And if you don't know what those terms are, you'll never be able to tell. So let's go to the Alex Jones clip, and we'll do that.
They have gravitic craft. They have gravitic weapons.
By the way, this video, like, I didn't add this part in. This was Alex Jones talking over the MH370 video, just being super awkward, like not saying what he was looking at.
That's just one small part of this. And it goes on and on and on. And from all of our sources and experts and information, the Russians are the second most advanced behind us. And then the Chinese have developed a lot of these similar systems as well.
I actually think China's probably number 2, but it's probably really close between China and Russia.
One of our sources that we know well heard me beginning to talk about this at the start of the show and sent this in to me. More on advanced energy weapons. The USA has...
It is kind of weird. These people are all like showing the clips of MH370, but like, how do you not give me credit there for that? That's insane to me, especially if I was on your show. Nobody else is promoting the MH370. It's not like there's like other people promoting those videos being real. It's just me. It's just MH370X. That's it. Like,
groundbreaking quantum entanglement weaponry. It was first used to send a carrier wave free message to and from devices which were labeled as advanced.
Okay, whoa, slow down there, Alex Jones. You just said a lot of words right away. Quantum entanglement weaponry and carrier wave free transmission. Okay. Does he even know what he just said right there? I'm not even sure Alex Jones knows what he just said right there. When you say quantum entanglement weaponry, you are quite literally talking about teleportation. What do you mean quantum entanglement weaponry? That would imply something at the macroscopic level. Quantum entanglement at the moment is only considered to be informational, faster than light communication. So if you're like, hey, we've got quantum entanglement weaponry, what? Say again what you mean by that? And then when we're talking about carrier wave free field, what is a carrier wave? A carrier wave is an electromagnetic wave, as in all waves that we know of. Or not all waves, but all electronic waves that we know of. So what they're saying is that, yes, it's not an electromagnetic wave. It's a scalar wave. They're saying it's a gravity wave that they're using. They're using a ripple through the ether to communicate. Why is that huge? Because you are staring at it in the MH370 video. When you watch that plane disappear, that's exactly the same as a transmission without a carrier wave. When the plane goes like this, Carrier wave is gone. There's no carrier wave. Plane comes back into existence again. That's what they're talking about there. When Alex Jones says there's no carrier wave, he's saying no electromagnetic wave, which is at the moment in academia considered to be pseudoscience.
Radar and satellite receivers, but reality, it's being used as quantum entanglement to deliver messages. There are magnetic drones which move so quickly as to burn up in the atmosphere if not properly shielded or slowed down, which can be used to explode rockets moving at any speeds.
Okay, so I added the video in there, but what? There are magnetic drones that are being used to detonate rockets at any speeds? That is really, really specific. I mean, I don't know how to interpret that other than what we're looking at in the videos.
There are magnetic drones which move so quickly as to burn up in the atmosphere if not properly shielded or slowed down, which can be used to explode rockets moving at any speeds.
Is there some other way to interpret that? That magnetic drones that can blow up rockets? I mean, it sounds just like the orbs. They're technically electromagnets, but yes, they're magnets. How long have I been saying that those orbs are basically magnets jamming together? That is really, really specific. I mean, guys, I don't know what else to tell you here.
They can detonate a nuclear bomb in one place and another location is destroyed by the radiation carried on the Earth's magnetic field as well as other carrier waves. They also can cause the enemy's nuclear weapons to detonate by speeding up the nuclear decay on the warheads at a distance using quantum entanglement technology. They also have created direct energy weapons and death rays, to use Tesla's term. These advanced technologies cannot be shielded against in the normal manner, so any underground bunker is no defense. They use quantum entanglement to send messages to and from bombers without a carrier wave. Also, they can use laser relays, which are not necessarily with a visible light spectrum, which are beamed to aircraft sensors, which transmit a message which is not intercepted by any known technology. Thus, they send a thin beam to form of a satellite.
Okay, bro. Okay. I'm not the source. That's why I was freaking out at this. I'm watching that. I'm going, this is like way too aligned. He's saying exactly everything I'm saying and nothing more. I saw that and I went, wait, am I the source? Is Alex Jones using me as a source? I don't get it. Is there somebody else saying what I'm saying on the internet? I don't think so. So whoever Alex Jones' source is right there, he's 100% on the money. 100% on the money. I even ran it by some people I know on some of my sources, and they're saying, yeah, I don't know, whoever his source is, they know what they're talking about exactly. Maybe they are trying to steal the narrative. It is really weird that how like he's basically saying everything I'm saying, and he's got some secret source telling him it. It feels like they need to steal the narrative away, because if they have to admit that I'm right, then they have to admit that the videos are real. Right? If they have to admit that I'm right, then they have to admit that the videos are real. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but it absolutely feels that way. So whether or not, if you have your own opinions about it, that's what it feels like to me watching something like that, because it's just too on the nose. It's too on the nose. Okay. Now let me show you this, because guys, Hal Puthoff is the guy. Just Google Hal Puthoff patents. Now, after you just saw that whole thing about carrier waves or no carrier wave and what have you, then just go to Hal Puthoff's patents and be like, oh, what kind of patents does Hal Puthoff have? Huh, it's all the same patent. It's all communication method and apparatus with signals comprising of scalar and vector potentials without electromagnetic fields. What? Let me just read it again. Communication method and apparatus with signals comprising of scalar and vector potentials without electromagnetic fields. Alex Jones, 5 seconds ago, I just played a clip that said they have capability to communicate with B-2 bombers without electromagnetic fields, with no carrier wave. Well, clearly they're using Hal Puthoff's patent because there it is. There it is. And oh, by the way, chat, this patent was first approved in 1998. 1998. That patent has been out there for almost 30 years that they've been able to do this. At a minimum. It's probably been available before this patent as well, but this patent, and let's scroll up. It was approved the first time in 1998. It was approved a second time in 2018. It was approved a third time in 2019. It was approved a fourth time in 2021. And it was approved a fifth time in 2023. This patent has been approved 5 different times. You think so? For somebody who wants to say that what Alex Jones was saying there is not correct, and you can't have a communication system, a quantum communication system without a carrier wave, well, they probably should go talk to the patent office, because the patent office has been approving Hal Puthoff's patent for exactly that since 1998. What does the patent office know that we don't know? Why are they approving this patent 5 different times if it's apparently doesn't work? Chat. Why is life this way? Guys, let's do some donos and let's call it a night. It's been a long, long week. Let me see what we got here in the on YouTube. This discovery cannot be shared or even admitted to because it means the immediate end of all profit and power and energy monetization. William Bill, thank you very much, sir. Yeah, it really can't be. It really, I think it is kind of a thing where it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. There's no good answers here. No matter what you do, you're going to have a bad answer. So this is why I am somewhat sympathetic with the people that have been hiding this forever. You know, they've been hiding this stuff, but they messed up when they decided that they were going to use it on a civilian airplane. With great power comes great responsibility, and they did not adhere to the great responsibility they were given. Resonance, War Ranch LLC. Yes, resonance is extremely important. And yes, you can probably control plasma with ultrasound. Why would you not be able to? You can create sonoluminescence with sound and water. So why would you not be able to use sound to control plasma? In fact, I've already been convinced. I think I said the other day, I'm pretty sure that we're going to find out that we can just use vibration to create the plasma that we need, that we don't even need the lasers. I think the lasers are going to be not even necessary. So the thing about the attosecond lasers is like, that's the way you do it with training wheels. If you really want to get serious about making the plasma, you just use vibration and amplification of vibration to make your plasma. And then David R says, come on, it's obvious why Jones isn't mentioning you. He wants the credit. I don't know about all that, but it just seems weird. It just seems a little weird, man. I'm not sure. Thank you, David R. Appreciate that. Night Call says, does this technology have anything to do with the mysterious Pan Am flight? I can't remember which one the Pan Am one was, but I don't think so. If I don't remember it, then it's probably not necessarily related to this. But there are, I mean, who knows, guys? Truthfully, I'm not trying to connect this technology to anything else. If it helps you to connect it to stuff that you care about, go nuts. I'm telling you, absolutely, we have directed energy weapons. I'm telling you, we have all these capabilities that I went through and ran through earlier. So if any of those things are things you care about, then yeah, you know, run with it. Take it yourself. War Ranch LLC, Army Excalibur system can fire energy rounds. Okay, sounds scary. Okay, my Pilled fam. Okay, Pilled fam, thank you, Sean Joe, for the cookies. Z-Tuck, cheers. Ever look at tensor rings? Z-Tuck says. Tensor rings, I'm not really familiar with the concept of tensor ring. Presumably it has something to do with coupling to space-time, but not super familiar with it, guys. Keep in mind, guys, I'm a noob, so I am not classically trained, which means I understand the concepts. But if you come at me with a bunch of terms and what have you without context, it's not going to get very far. But thank you, Z-Talk, for that donation. Thank you, everybody else in the Pilled chat who's been watching. Big shout out to Pilled.net. If you guys are not on there, check out their content. They're awesome. And then in Rumble, thank you guys very much. Yeah, I think so. The people in the Rumble are saying that Alex Jones's producers probably just watched my videos and copied the script. That actually could be what's going on. It might not be nefarious at all. It might just be that. Wouldn't surprise me because I know one of the producers on Alex Jones. I know who he is. He's a good guy. Shout out to Joe out there. Okay, guys. I'm out. What we've got coming up, the NG8 interview that I did and demonstration with their cold fusion EVO energy source, that will be dropping on Monday. There's not going to be a live stream on Monday. I'll be out of town. I've got a show I'm recording for. I'll announce more about that later on. So no live stream on Monday. Instead, I'm going to drop the ENG8 thing. And look for more content this weekend. I'll probably drop some clips and things like that as well, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for following along, guys. Have a great night. MH270X. Love you guys. Peace out, everybody. Boom, 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 boom.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night.